Hello and welcome. I'm Devlin Peck, and today we're talking about how you can land your first client as a new freelancer. So, first, let's consider why people hire freelancers in the first place. Most clients, they'll turn to freelancers whenever they need a specific project or deliverable completed. So maybe their in-house talent is super busy and they don't have the bandwidth to complete this new project. And maybe they're only busy for a couple months right now, so they didn't want to take the time and money to hire a new full-time employee. They just want to outsource some of this extra work now to get through this busy part, and freelancers are perfect for taking on work like that. And then the other case is that it's a team and they don't have access to the talent they need. Maybe their in-house talent doesn't have the right skill set or doesn't have the right level of expertise, or maybe they just don't have any employees in-house who can produce whatever it is that they need produced. So both of those are very common situations where freelancers come into play. Now, obviously, there are a lot of freelancers out there, so when it comes time to hire a freelancer, clients are looking at, one, most importantly, do they have the skills we need to bring this project to life? And two, are they credible? Can we trust this person to actually get the job done? Or do we have to worry about missed deadlines or them, disappearing or any other number of issues that could go wrong? So when clients are measuring credibility, they're looking at a lot of different factors. And I don't remember where I heard this comparison, but I've seen it compared to a credit score. So in the US, there's this thing called a credit score where based off of your history of on-time payments, how much debt you have, and a host of other factors, it results in one score that tells lenders how credible you are as a borrower. And I've seen this comparison to freelance work and business in general because there's this imaginary credit score that you have with every client who looks at your site or talks to you. So, and all of these different factors I'm about to dive into, they can build that credit score up. So one of the most common ones is a degree or specific credentials. So maybe you've completed a master's degree or a certificate program or some kind of boot camp, and talking about that and putting that in front of your client, that can boost your credibility. It shows that you're formally educated and that you have probably somewhat of an idea of what you're talking about. And notice that this is just something that builds your credibility. As a freelancer, none of these things are probably required, but they all will help you to different degrees with different clients. So existing relationships. This is, you've probably heard of networking, and that's where this comes in. If the client already knows you, either from maybe you worked together in the past or they've seen you speak at an event or something, then you already have a certain degree of trust with that client. Work experience. So if you have decades of work experience or you've held a really tough position with a lot of responsibility or completing a very important project, then you're going to want to highlight that work experience and get credibility from it. This one is very important. Examples of your work. If you have a portfolio that shows what you can do and the quality that you can produce, then that will be very, very appealing and attractive to clients who care about the quality of work that you're going to be producing for them. And we'll get into that more in a bit. Social proof, also very important. Even if the client doesn't already know you and they haven't worked with you, if they can see testimonials about what other clients have had to say, and they see that other clients are happy with the work that you produce for them, then that's going to definitely give you some credibility with a client who has a similar project who's looking for someone good. And that's just intuitive as well. Like whenever you're buying something, you're probably looking at reviews and seeing what other people have to say about that product. Same holds true for freelancers. And this one I think is especially important as a newer freelancer. It's passion. And passion helped me land my first freelance gig, and we're going to dive into that right after this. But yeah, sometimes clients will feel better knowing that their project is in the hands of someone who lives and breathes their field and who really gets excited about doing the work. That can go a long way with clients sometimes, especially if you don't already have this super this really nice portfolio or years of work experience and social proof and all that good stuff. So let's dive into my experience a little bit, just so you know where I'm coming from and what my trajectory was like, especially in that first few months. So when I was a master's student, as soon as I started my master's program, I'm like, I need to start my freelance business and land some clients. So I don't think I had a portfolio at the time, but I did have a part-time instructional design job, and it was a very low hourly, like 10 or 12 hours per week. But I was developing some online training. So when I went on Upwork, which is where I wound up landing my first gig, I would apply to jobs and say, oh, hi, I design online training for a tech company in California. I'm super passionate about engaging online training and would love to do X, Y, or Z with this project you have listed. And that worked for me. I applied to probably 15 or 20 gigs. And eventually this company up in Canada, they were like, yeah, we're new to Upwork. We see you're new to Upwork. I love your passion. It really shows through. It was like a $200 project. So they're like, this is a really low risk project for us. So we want to move forward with you just because we like how passionate you are. And again, it's low risk. So if it doesn't go super well, then no worries. So it did go well. It probably worked out to like 10 or 15 bucks an hour. So it wasn't a profitable project for me. But the client was happy with it. He gave me permission to use it in my portfolio, and I used that to leverage my next project, which came from my network. So I used that piece I did on Upwork, and I created a portfolio, and I did a couple of other personal projects. I think one of my master's program assignments I did in a tool that's very popular in my field, Articulate Storyline. So I had a few projects in my portfolio, nothing super fancy. But there was an alumnus from my school who I reached out to interview for like a class assignment to learn more about what a day in the life was like for an independent consultant. And this woman had been consulting for 30 years. She was well respected, worked with very big clients. So I hopped on a call with her that first semester and I interviewed her and we hit it off pretty well. I learned a lot from her. But once I had this portfolio up with this Upwork project, I asked her to take a look at it and like let me know what she thinks and what maybe I can improve to get to a state where I was hireable. So she looked at it and instead of giving me feedback, she was like, "Oh, this is great. I love it. Do you want to help me on a project? I need some e-learning development support." So I was like, "Oh yeah, for sure." And before we hopped on a call, she was like, "Oh wait, is any of this work in your portfolio for a paid client? Did you actually do any of this as a real project?" And because of that Upwork gig, I was able to say yes, and it gave me credibility going into this negotiation that I had already done some freelance work and I was to be trusted with a project like this. So that's why you'll see me recommending, just land that first gig, get it in your portfolio so that you can say you've done paid work before, because it kind of snowballs after that. So once I landed that next project, again, I kept building my portfolio. I got my LinkedIn page in order and people started finding me on LinkedIn. They would type in instructional designer or e-learning developer. They would find my profile and I would have my portfolio link right at the top. So they would check out my work and from there they would email me about any projects to see if I would be interested in working on them. So I started landing work like that. And then after years of working on content marketing, people started finding me on Google with those same keywords. And then just word of mouth from previous clients and other people in the industry that I've helped. So that was my trajectory. And the important takeaway from this is that this on screen right now, very important. The number and quality of leads that came to me, it was always directly proportional to the quality of my portfolio. Okay? So this right here to me is the most important thing you can do. Get your portfolio in good shape. Most of you watching are probably instructional designers or e-learning developers. I have an article on my website, like 3,000 words long, about how to get your portfolio in order. But if you're a graphic designer, a motion designer, an animator, an illustrator, your portfolio is probably going to do a vast majority of the heavy lifting. Again, if you network well and people trust you already, the portfolio will just be, oh, let's do a quick check and make sure they can actually do what it is that they say they do. But especially if you're just getting started, you want a portfolio that shows what you can do, because when clients are evaluating freelancers, they're going to look at your portfolio and they're going to imagine their logo and their content in the projects that you're showing off. So if you have a high quality project that looks clean, looks like it would fit their audience, they're going to imagine that project at their company. And if you're doing a good job, they're going to get excited about that. They're going to say, oh, we need to talk to this person. We want this kind of a project for our employees or for our customers. And when someone reaches out and says, oh, I loved your portfolio, can we hop on a call to discuss this project? It's going to be very different going into that call when you know that they already like your work and they already want to work with you. So again, that for me, that's been my biggest thing. Again, potential clients, they want to see what you can do. A portfolio is the best way to show that off. If you have credentials and work experience and social proof, that's just icing on the cake, and that's going to get you over that finish line. But your portfolio should be your number one priority if you're still trying to land your first client, okay? And I've experienced this for years. There was a time when I even took down my portfolio and I tried to get credibility just from my articles, and the leads dried up very quickly. So if you can do good work, show it off, spend the time, invest the time in making your portfolio nice before doing anything else. That's my best advice for you in this video. But what do you do after that? Okay, your portfolio is in good shape, your projects look nice. LinkedIn, again, that worked wonders for me. So my advice is to keyword optimize your LinkedIn profile. Add in freelance instructional designer, freelance e-learning developer. If you're a graphic designer or motion graphic designer, use all of those keywords that clients would use to find you, because potential clients are very active on LinkedIn. And I'd say that's probably one of the first places people turn besides Google when they want to hire talent. So invest the time in your LinkedIn profile, and right at the top, or even in multiple places on that profile, link back to your portfolio website. View all of this other outreach as a funnel to get people to your portfolio, because that's where you want to wow them. And that's where you're going to have some sort of contact information so that they can email you to discuss their projects. So always funnel people to that portfolio website. Job boards, okay? So job boards are probably the best way to land that immediate first project, to land some immediate work. This will probably be lower value work. It will probably be hourly. And you have to be careful on job boards too, because there are scammers out there, or there are people who want you to do work for basically pennies on the dollar. So you do need to be careful. Upwork especially is one of these places. They take a big cut of your earnings. But if you're just looking for that first project like I was to add to your portfolio and gain some credibility, it can be a gold mine for finding a quick one-off thing, low risk for both you and the client. If you are in the e-learning space, the e-learning Heroes Job Hub is a good resource. It's mostly people looking for articulate experts, articulate storyline. So just Google ELH Job Hub and you'll find that. Jobs are posted pretty regularly, I would say. And then just look up, e-learning freelance talent site or graphic design talent marketplace, because there are so many sites like this popping up, and I'm sure some of them do have good projects or good gigs that would be good for new freelancers just to start getting some actual paid freelance work under your belt. And again, whenever you are reaching out to these potential clients and putting your name in the hat, so to speak, you want to draw attention to that portfolio ASAP, because that's what's going to make the difference, especially if you don't have credibility from these other sources. Networking, okay? So odds are you're not like me. I started my freelance business directly coming out of my undergraduate program. So I didn't have a professional network. I'd never held a full-time job, but a lot of people who reach out to me, they already are in full-time positions. You probably have some kind of professional network, either on LinkedIn, email contacts, or even phone numbers. or even in person, if you're at the office. You want to let people know that you are starting to freelance, or you're starting a business, or taking clients on the side. So again, don't be ashamed to let these people know. And these are people who already will know you to some degree and trust you to some degree. So this isn't cold outreach. This is the network you've already cultivated. So your chances of success with them, if they need your services, are much higher because they already know, trust, and like you to some degree. And again, tell them about the services you offer, but direct them right back to that portfolio website. That's what's going to land you the business in a lot of cases. Okay, so we've covered the main ones: the job boards, the reaching out to your existing network, LinkedIn, a huge one. But once you've established your presence and you're regularly checking for these new opportunities, you want to start getting exposure, getting your name out there, getting your website out there, getting your offering out there so that people can find you when they need you. So one of my favorite way to do that, and you'll know this if you've watched some of my other videos, is to create and share content. So this is articles, tutorials, YouTube videos, maybe even sharing at live events. Because again, this builds your expertise, and it also helps people who have had problems that you've had in the past. And not to get too into it, but that's how I create content. I think about tough, relevant to the field problems I faced, and then I create the content that I wish I would have had when I was facing that problem. So I think every one of you watching this can do that. And sharing that content on LinkedIn is a good way to get your name in people's feeds, good way to get people to your website, and then they're just one click away from your portfolio to see your work and maybe get that work in front of someone who can pay you to complete a project for them. Engage in discussions on LinkedIn. Again, just help contribute to those discussions, get your name in those comments, and if someone likes what you say or someone's just curious about your opinion on something, that's a hit on your profile and a potential hit on your portfolio. So again, this is what I mean by getting exposure. It's getting your name in front of people, because the more people who you get your name in front of, the more chances that your name is in front of someone who actually has some work to give you. But again, that depends on you having a good portfolio so that they actually want to give you that work. Attend live events, engage in the chat. Again, it's there's a sense of camaraderie in the chat. It's a sense of community, so you want to be present for that. Work out loud. This is a really, really good way to build your expertise and to be transparent, and people like transparency. Some of my favorite creators, they're very transparent about their own struggles in their business and their own growth, and I try to do that in my own videos, as you may have seen. So don't be afraid to do that. If you're working on a new project, do some videos about your process, do a write-up and share it all over LinkedIn or Twitter. And of course, in the context of all of this, don't be afraid to mention that you're freelancing, especially when you're just starting out and people might know you as the project manager or the full-time instructional designer at so-and-so company. So really help with that messaging. And maybe at the bottom of your article, as you say, reach out with any freelance opportunities you have. Or maybe, in your LinkedIn post, you work that in, that you're open to opportunities for freelance e-learning development or graphic design or whatever it is. Don't be afraid to mention that. Again, ideally, you would get to a place where people know you as the freelancer and people are coming to you and referring people to you. But especially in the beginning, you want to help get that word out there. Cool. So long term, it will result in referrals and people finding you from your content or word of mouth. So, it's been a while since I'm looking on job boards or throwing my name into the hat for things. And sometimes I do, like if I see a good opportunity come up, I'm like, oh, I think I would be a good fit for that. But the direction I'm definitely going is trying to just work on all of this content video so that people find me long term. So if you want to see more videos about that, feel free to just let me know in the comments. But the number one takeaway from this, I think I've made this point clear, is to create a good portfolio with high quality work and get it in front of as many people as you can. That's what's going to result in paid work, okay? So I see a lot of people, who want to start, who are trying to get into freelancing, and they're reaching out to people and networking, but they don't have a portfolio, or their portfolio is not in a hireable state. So that should, if you fall into that camp, I would say spend 90% of your time on your portfolio, because that's what's going to have the highest return on investment. At least in my experience and from what I've seen online and just intuitively for me. So I hope I made that clear. If you did enjoy this video and this has helped you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, because I do have a lot more content like this coming. And if you have any questions, or if you'd like me to create videos where I dive deeper into any of the topics I've addressed in this video, then just leave a comment, because I do read and respond to every comment, and I am having a lot of fun making these videos lately, so I'm happy to do more. So thank you again if you have made it to the end. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.